Hey YouTube family, welcome back to this session 9 of full stack Java full stack made easy. So in the previous session we spoke about the concept of switch, and also we talked about the concept of loops, right? So we have discussed about a fixed loop, which is the for loop, right? So wherever the programmer knows the number of iteration, we can go for a for loop. If a programmer does not know the number of iteration, we can go for a do while or a while loop. So let's now see one more example regarding this break and continue statement. After that, we will talk about loop labeling, and then we will move to while and do while. So let me just create a simple loop here. For int I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. And then what I will do is I'll write a system.out.println, and I'll write the value of I, and then I will use a continue statement here. Okay, so there are two things that can be used into loops, that is break and continue. So let's see what happens when I use a continue statement here, and then we will see what will happen if a break statement will be used. So I just want you to predict the output of this. If you already know the concept of continue and break, so predict the output of this. Most of the time when I show this particular code to my students, they always predict that let's also give a condition here. If let's say I equal to 4, at that time I want to continue it. So when I show this particular code to any of my students, they generally tend to give me the result, say me that 4 will be skipped, rest all will be printed, right? So let's first print the result of this and understand whether 4 will be skipped or not, and why will also see that after running this particular piece of code. So run this, and here you go. 0 to 9 is all printed, nothing is skipped, right? So most of the people generally have a misconception that in such cases this 4 will be skipped. What will be skipped? Yes, continue skips the loop. So continue, what it does, skips the loop, right? But continue skips the loop below this, like whatever is written below this will be skipped. So let's say I'll call it as I plus before, and then I'll write I plus after. So after will be skipped, it's not before that is going to be skipped. Okay, after. So let's save it and run it, and now you will see that anything that is written after that will be skipped, not before. So if you see, 4 after is not printed here, right? So 3 before, 3 after, 4, 5 before, 5 after, 6 before, 6 after is all printed, but 4 before is printed, 4 after is not printed. That means it is skipped. So this is how a continue or a break statement works. So anything written above will not be skipped or terminated, whereas anything written below will be skipped and terminated. So let me put this example into the repository for your reference. So this is our day 9 slash demo 1 continue. Okay, so now let's go back and see the break statement. So when I use a break statement, what it does is it terminates the loop instead of skipping the loop. So terminates in the sense it will stop the entire loop itself. So it will not skip that one loop. Okay, so let's run this and see. So you can see that once it reaches to 4 before, it has terminated the loop. It does not continue now. It will come out of the loop. Okay, completely it will come out of the loop. So continue skips the loop, whereas break terminates the loop. So this is demo 2, a break statement. So there might be chances where what we want to do is we might want to write applications like where we might have nested loops, and we want to terminate the outer loop, or maybe some cases we want to terminate the inner loops and all. So first we will see how exactly nested loop works, and where we will be using the break and continue. So I'll remove this, and here I go, and I'll write for, let's reduce the number of loopings. So I'll say for I is equal to 5, then for I j equals to 0, then j is less than 3, and j plus plus is what I'm gonna do here. So what happens is, for every loop of I, 3 loop of j will be executed. Okay, that means it will be 5 into 3, 15. So 15 times it will loop. So to tell you that it is looping for 15 times, I'll just take a int counter equals to 0 here, and then I'll just increment the counter in every loop, counter plus plus, or we can say counter is equal to counter plus 1 as well. So I'll come out of the loop and just print the number of iterations that has happened. So counter should give me the count of this CTR, how many times it has entered this. So you can see that it has entered 15 times. So that means 15 loops have happened. Okay, 5 into 3. So this is how it works. Now I'll just comment this counter and comment this as well. Now what I want is, I want to write something like this. If the value, let me just print the value of I and j as well here, system.out.println, the value of I plus the value of j. Okay, so for each value of I there will be 3 values of j. Now you can see that I'll run this. So each value of I, that is when I is 0, then there are 3 values of j, that is 0, 1 and 2, and then I becomes 1, so there is 0, 1 and 2, I becomes 2, so 0 and 1 and 2, I becomes 3, 0, 1 and 2, 4, and so 0 to 4 is 5 times, right? 0 to 4. So outer loop is iterating for 5 times, inner loop is iterating for 3 times, okay, for each of the outer loop. So this is how we write nested loops. Okay, so I'll uncomment this and put this into a repository, and we will see the actual thing here. So I'll copy it and put it into the repository, and let's call it as nested loops. Okay, and there can be any type of loop inside any type of loop. Fixed loop can have variable loops can have fixed loop in it. So there's no restriction like that. So now what I want to do is, I want to say, if the value, suppose if I add a break statement here. Okay, so I'll add a break statement and I'll say if j equal to 1, at that time I want to perform a break statement. Okay, so when I do a break, we know that whatever is written below that will be terminated. So let's write it here. And also what I'm gonna do is, I'll write a system.out.println here. So anyways, let's see what happens now. So let's save it and run it, and now we will go ahead and see system.out.println. I'll write it as outer here. Okay, let's save it and run. So you notice that when I'm writing a break statement, so what is happening is, in the first loop it comes in here and checks what is the value of j. If the value of j is 0, it continues. Then second, it makes the value of j to 1, and when the value of j becomes 1, it is terminating that. So whenever j is becoming 1, it is terminating. For all the I value it is running. So you can see the I values are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, whereas the value of j, whenever it becomes 1, it is terminating that. Okay, and you can also see the counter is running for 10 times. Let's see that. Yes, the outer loop is running. Now this means that this break statement, what it is terminating is, it is terminating only the inner loop. It is not terminating the outer loop. Whenever j becomes 1, it is terminating the inner loop itself. If suppose I write something like this outside the loop, that is after performing this loop, if I say if I equal to 1, then break. So when I save it, obviously when I run this now, whenever I becomes 1, it terminates the entire loop, that is outer loop will be terminated. For I becoming 0, no problem, it has executed, it comes to the outer loop, and then it increments the value of I, loops this, because this break statement is written here, so it will loop all of this. When it finds that I has become 1, so it breaks it, terminates the entire flow of the loop. That is why the next outer, anything written below this will not be executed. So this outer is not executed, and next it will not loop the things, right? So in the previous case, only the inner loop was being terminated. In this case, the outer loop is being terminated. So it means that wherever you write this break or continue statements, it is affected to only that particular loop. Okay, so wherever you write it, whether you write it outside or you write it inside. Now what is my condition? My condition is something like this: if I equals to 1 and j equals to 2, terminate the entire loop. Okay, so that is my condition. So when I becomes 1 and j becomes 2. So what I will write is, if I equals to, entire loop has to be terminated, that means the outer loop has to be terminated. Entire loop means the outer, that has to be terminated. So I'll be writing it here, I equals to 1, and I'll say j equal to 2. Yeah, j equals to 2. J will not be visible here, that's because it's a local variable. So what I will do is, just to make it visible outside, I'll be declaring it here int j, and then I will say j equals to 0. Now j will be visible. Although j is visible, now what we are saying is I equals to 1 and j equal to 2. Terminate the loop. Let's see what happens whether the loop gets terminated or not. So I'll run this piece of code. I was expecting whenever I becomes 1 and j becomes 2, it should terminate the loop. So I becomes 0 here, I becomes 1 here, I is becoming 2 here, right? So when I becomes 1 and j becomes 2, it has to terminate the loop here itself, right? But it is not terminating the loop. Now what is the reason why it is not terminating the loop, although I am saying I equals to 1 and j equal to 2 to break the entire loop? I have written the break statement outside this loop itself. Why is that? That is because if you understand that when this value of j comes out of this loop, it is never 2 here. So when I print that value of j here, you will notice that it is always 3 here, j plus. So whenever I am printing that j outside the loop, it is always 3, because when it is less than 3, j becomes 3, 3 is less than 3, comes out of the loop, right? So when it comes out of the loop, the value of j is always 3. You can see that j is 3, j is 3, j is 3. Always j is 3 itself. So this condition is never 2. I is equal to 1 and j equals to 2 never happens. That is why it is not getting terminated. Okay, but still the problem remains. What I wanted was, I wanted if the I value is 1 and j value is 2, terminate the entire loop. So what if the j value has to become 2? J value becomes 2 only within this inner loop. It does not become 2 outside the loop. So what I have to do now? So once again, what I'll do is I'll put this into the repository as a problem statement. Okay, so this was the problem, demo 4. So when we are writing a break statement outside the loop, outer loop is terminated. If we are writing a break statement inside the inner loop, then inner loop will be terminated. So what I will do is I'll go here and then I will try to do this. When I becomes 1 and j becomes 2, break the loop. I wanted to break the entire outer loop. Now if I write it like this, what happens is, when I becomes 1 and j becomes 2, it is terminating it. So I becomes 1 here, j becomes 2, it is terminating that. But what it is terminating is, it is terminating the inner loop itself, right? So I becomes 1, j becomes 2, it is terminating this loop, it is not terminating the outer loop. Okay, so system.out.println, let's call it as inner here. Okay, let's save it and run this and see what happens. So j is 0, I is 0 here, so I is 0, I becomes 1, j1 inner, I is 1, j2, you can see that inner is not printed here. That is because inner loop is terminated. For every other instance, this inner is executed. So what I want is, I want to break the outer loop, not the inner loop. How do we do that? So to do that, we have to make use of loop labeling. This concept is not generally explained, so let me put some light on that concept. If I have conditions like that, what I have to do is, I have to label the loop. So this loop, I will make it as outer. You can name it anything. Let's name it as outer loop. Okay, so this is a label for that loop. And now that I just wanted a label for the outer loop, I will simply say outer loop is named there. Break what? Break the outer loop. That's it. So it is not mandatory that if you are looping an outer loop, you have to also give an inner loop here. So labeling, you can give label to this or you can give the label to this. When you give the labels, you can terminate the loop based on the name of that loop. Labeling is nothing but the name. So now you can notice that whenever the value of I becomes 1 and j becomes 2, it has terminated only 6 times. It is iterating now. All the other iteration, the value of I is never becoming 2, 3 and 4, right? So this is how we can make use of loop labeling and terminate any loop of our choice. Okay, from inner you can terminate the outer, from outer you can terminate the inner. provided that you have the value given there. So let me just copy this and put this as a solution for the problem that we have discussed in our previous example. So this is our demo 5. This is the solution, and let's call it as loop label. So loop labelings, save it. Done. So I hope now you have understood the concept of nested loops and also labeling of loops and the break and continue statements inside the loop. So we'll talk more about the loops and everything in our other examples and the case studies, or maybe you can say assignments that I give you. A lot of looping and arrays will be used. So let me go ahead and show you two more loops that are available in Java, that is while and do while loop. So when I talk about the while or the do while loop, they are variable loops. They whenever the programmer does not know the number of iterations, a programmer can either go for a while loop or do while loop. In all the cases, while and do while loop executes the same except one. Okay, we will talk about that one exceptional condition. In rest all cases, while and do while works the same itself. So now let's see the differences between these two. So whenever I'm writing a while statement, so it can be while true, it takes an expression here. As long as this expression is true, while executes. So I can go for system.out.println and simply write looping like I did in for loop. So I just write looping when I run this. So it keeps on looping as long as the condition is true, because the condition that is given here is true all the time. So obviously it will loop for infinite time. So I cannot directly give a false here. So giving a constant value false is not allowed in a while loop. Whereas if the same thing I try to do it in a, because the statements will never be reached. So this is non-reachable statement. So it's unreachable code. So because the statements are never reached, compiler will throw you an error. You can have a variable that holds the value as false by default, but you cannot directly write a constant value false there. So if the same thing is written like this, do while, and I'm writing a false in here, so this is completely valid in Java. Okay, and this can be one of your interview question. Looping, this is the valid thing, and if it is written with a while, it gives us a unreachable code error. Whereas if it is written with a do while loop, it's reachable because do will be executed first. That means the loop body is executed first and then the condition is checked. So one time this loop will happen. So this is the difference between a while loop and a do while loop. That means do while loop execute at least once, whereas while loop checks the condition and executes the loop body. So it is 0 or more, whereas do while is 1 or more. 0 or more time, 1 or more time. So this is one major difference, and they might also test you with this passing of constant value of false in OCJP exams. So now I'll add another file here. So this is our demo 6, while versus do while. So if you are following this series properly, you will see a lot of questions I am giving you. Whenever I say this might be asked into OCJP, these are the questions that are most likely asked in OCJPs. So this is trial and tested things in OCJP. So I hope you have now got the difference between this while and do while. Now as I told you, it is possible that you might write a variable like boolean and x is equal to false. That variable can be false, and that type of variable can be passed, no problem. It will not throw you an error, no unreachable error at all. That is because x is a variable, it can change its value. It is false, it can be true, right? So during compile time, just the type of the variable is concerned, not the value of the variable. That value of the variable will be checked during runtime itself. So if I directly pass a false here, so at the compile time itself, the compiler knows why are you passing a false value here, which is not valid here. Okay, so I hope this is clear to you, the difference between a while and do while loop. So let's see the similarity difference we have seen. So there are cases where while and do while will work the exact same. Let's say for example, if I have int x is equal to 0, and I'll say while x is less than let's say 10, and system.out.println the value of x, I'll print x, and then I'll say let's do a x, yeah, that's it, that's fine. So let's say x plus plus, so which will make it 1, and what I'll do is I'll say 2 plus into x equals to 2. So that is what I'll just give. So it will print 2 plus x that is 2 into 1, and then plus, I'll just add an equal to here, and I'll say 2 into the value of x. So the value of x will be incrementing, that is it will become 1 here. So 1 2 3 4 5 6. So the moment it reaches 10, that is if x is less than or equal to 10, it will stop there and it will keep printing this as long as the value of x does not become 11. So you can see that 11 has become, and it has printed me that. So less than or equal to, let's remove that and run it, because x becomes 10 here itself. So you can see that it is printing it. The same thing can be done by the while loop also, that is, sorry, do while as well. So let's check that here. Once again, I'll say x is equal to 0, because the value of x gets changed, okay, after looping. So that is why I'm writing that here. Again, initializing that to 0. Now comes back, and I'll write the same condition, x is less than 10. So let's save it, and after that, system.out.println do while. So let's save it and run this and check whether what will be the result. So this is also a table of 2 is printed to me, right, in a while loop. Do while is also doing the same thing, exact same thing, right? A table of 2 is printed. So there are similarities between while and do while. It will execute exact same in all the condition except when the initial value given is false. Okay, so at that time only the difference comes up, else while and do while remains the same itself. Okay, so demo 7 while and do while. So again, you can perform nesting in while loop, do while loop. I'll not waste much of the time on the concept of nesting and all there. So one real time example, I'll show you the difference between the while loop and the while loop. So what I will be doing is, let's take an example of maybe a pin, ATM pin. So let's go ahead and see that. So what I'll do is, I'll read the value of the pin from the user. So you try that, read the pin from user. You already know we have used scanner in previous sessions. So I'll just write int pin is equal to. So what I'll do is, I'll write the value of this pin and a loop, and I'll check if the value of the pin is correct or not. And until and unless the value of the pin is correct, I want to loop, and then I want to check whether the excess will be given or not. So let's read this and keep reading the value of the pin as long as the value is correct. So what I'll do is, I'll just say int pin here, and as for now the pin is nothing. So let's create the scanner instance. Scanner sc is equal to new scanner. Import statement has happened here, so I don't want that there. Main starts here, main ends on, everything looks good. Int pin scanner sc is equal to new. Oh, import statement was removed, that's why it's not showing me that. So let's get that scanner and system dot in. Fine. So now what I want is, I want to perform a looping. I want to use a while loop here, and as long as the pin is not maybe any pin, let's say 1111 is our correct pin. So as long as this is not entered, I don't want to give an access to the user. So what I will do is, I'll read while the pin not equal to, okay, 1111. As long as that is not equal to 1111, what you do is keep reading the pin. System.out.println I'll give. So I'll say enter pin, and then I will read it. Let's say this pin is equal to sc dot next int, right? So it's an integer value, so I'll give next int, and then what I'll do is, if it comes here, so int pin not equals to, so we have to initialize it, right? So because it's a local variable, local variables must be initialized before its use. So I'll initially give it as -1, because I don't know what is the pin of a user, right? So I'll give that, and I am asking the user to keep reading the pin as long as the user reads the pin. and if it comes out of this particular loop, I'll say system.out.println valid user. Okay, so let's save it and run this piece of code and see what happens. So when I run this piece of code, you can see it is asking me to enter the pin. I will enter 1 2, and then it is asking me to enter the pin once again. So I'll enter 1 1 1 1. So it says valid user, right? So now what we are actually doing is we are asking the user to enter the pin, and while this pin is not equal to the valid pin, so we are asking the user to enter the pin, and then it works fine, right? Similarly, what we will do is now we'll put the same thing into a do while loop, and then we'll see how things work there. Okay, so now everything looks good. What is happening is pin is -1 here because the local variable has to be initialized, right? So when I am saying that -1 is being given, if it's not equal to 1 1 1 1, keep asking the user the pin, and then print the pin, right? So what I can do is initialization of this can be done. You can see that I am initializing this pin to -1, right? So initialization has to happen by me. What if the user does not want to initialize it to -1? I don't want to give any initial pin. So in that case, this is giving me an error, right? So same thing I'll do with what I'll go ahead and I'll cut this out, and I'll go for do this till what, while pin not equal to 1111. So now you can notice that although it is a local variable here, and when I run this piece of code, it still works the same. I give it as 12, so it is an invalid pin. Again, enter it, invalid pin. So if I give a valid pin, it's a valid user. So in the previous case, I had to initialize the value -1. When I was using a while loop, I had to initialize the value of this pin as -1. Some dummy value has to be initialized. I'm not taking the value from the user. So where this might give you a problem, this might give you a problem when you have what, 3 pin attempts, right? So if you use a while loop, at that time only 2 attempts will be given to you. Why is that? That is because while loop, in while loop I have to initialize this wrong, right? So in such cases we can make use of the do while loop. So I'll give you this the same example so that you understand the difference between these two. I'll put the while loop under the comments. You can uncomment that and check how it is giving you an error when I'm not initializing it, and you can also try the same thing by initializing the value. Okay, so I'll put a comment here and put a while loop for your reference, so that you should not be like what it did in the classroom, right? So that should not happen. So it's a while loop, and that's what I'm checking. So yes, so while loop, and then this is how it works. Here I have to do pin equals to -1. Okay, and I give you try without giving -1. Okay, so you try that. So I'll put this into the repository. So this is my demo 8. While versus do while. Alright, so there's one more loop that is specially introduced in Java, that is for each loop, which is specially meant for arrays and the collections. So we have not yet discussed about the arrays and the concept of collections. So when we come to arrays and collection, we'll talk about the enhanced for loop, which is the for each loop. Okay, there is for each loop, there is for each method. So we'll go ahead in details about what exactly for each method is and for each loop is all about. Okay, so in the next session we'll talk more about the fundamentals of Java. Then I'll show you some examples where we use this looping and everything, and then we will talk about the arrays and more complicated concept of arrays, because generally people are not exactly aware about why arrays are used, how arrays comes into picture, and why do we still use arrays when we already have the concept of list and everything. So next session is going to be interesting. If you're liking in the series, do comment regarding the quality of the contents that is delivered and do share this with your friends so that I get more reaches, and that motivates me to create more such content. Thank you. See you in the next video.